Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our final review of Existence is Futile by Cradle of Filth. So, whole week has passed and we've been listening to this album all week long, and I think I'll hand the floor to TV Fish to let us know what he thinks after a week.
Alright, after a week of listening to Existence is Futile, I have to say I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, I'm curious, you said something to me last week about this album, and you mentioned that this is the kind of album for you at the time would taper off near the end. And I started to think about that when I listened to this album. However, I don't think it does that. In fact, there's actually a really big, unique, well, I don't know if it's unique, but interesting thing about this album that I noticed quite early on, and I mentioned this to you. It's separated in 3 different chunks. You got your intro track, 3 normal tracks, then you got another interlude, 3 tracks, interlude, and the final 3 tracks. So this album is essentially split into 3 sections, and I find that quite interesting. So to be able to separate it into like 3 groups, I think, gives you kind of perspective on how did they pace this album. I think they did it quite well. One of the most interesting things with pacing though is Necromantic Fantasies being the second track. Now, to me, the energy from this song is very like mid-album kind of bridge. But what's awesome is that this is essentially a mid-section bridge of the first chunk, because it's the 3rd track of the record. And I will tell you this, it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. I think it's practically a perfect song. The riffs, the melodies, everything, the solos take me away every single time. Now, then you have the actual kind of mid-album break, which is Discourse Between a Man and His Soul. And I don't love that song, but I still think it's quite good. But however, regarding the end of the album, 2 of the 3 tracks in that 3rd chunk I think are incredible, and that's How Many Tears to Nurture a Rose and Suffer Our Dominion. Us Dark Invincible, I don't mind, I don't dislike, but it's fine. But those 2 right before it I think are fantastic songs. How Many Tears, like every time that comes on it feels great. The riff and the melody kind of reminds me of something, and I'm gonna say something like kind of early, but I feel like this album is a perfect mixture, and I said this before, of like earlier Cradle, like Midian Damnation, and like Thornography and Amphetamine. You mix those 2 kind of spots of the band together and you get this album. I think it's a great mix.
Yeah, I think it's even more broad than that. I go for like maybe even like Cruelty to Thornography. Like, I don't know, I was getting vibes from both those albums off of this. I do agree with the songs that you highlighted, the ones there, Suffer Our Dominion. What was the other one?
And How Many Tears to Nurture a Rose.
Right. Definitely highlight tracks. I basically agree with a lot of things you said, except Necromantic Fantasies. Necromantic Fantasies started out as one of my top songs of the week. It's definitely got the best riffs on the album, for sure. But the song kind of started falling a little bit flat for me throughout the week. I don't exactly know why. It's not that I hate it, but it started out up here, and then it kind of went and plateaued it a little bit, and I'm like, it's just whatever. Existential Terror was one of my top songs at the beginning of the week.
That's a really good
Remains one of my top songs right now. That's a phenomenal song. Danny sounds amazing on this song. The bridge section of the song just hits super hard, and it leads into this Maiden-esque outro. Like, it just reminds me of Iron Maiden. Really good vocals by Danny, lots of good screams throughout the album, but that song specifically has some nice ones. Suffer Our Dominion was another one, like I just mentioned, that really rose to the top for me. It's got the Doug Bradley feature at the beginning with the little, a lot of this album is about like basically humans killing the earth, right? Like climate crisis and all that type of stuff, overpopulation, using resources at an alarming rate, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a woke album for Cradle, which is alright. It is what it is. Suffer Our Dominion though, I do have a gripe with that song. It starts off a lot stronger than it finishes, and I wish that it finished strong as well. Not that it finishes badly, but it just, I don't know, there's a bit of an up and a down with that.
It kind of goes very back and forth. It starts off, all quiet and calm, and then it starts going hard, and it really starts to push and pull between those.
It does, yeah. And Black Smoke Curling from the Lips of War is another really good song.
That's another one of my top
This
tracks.
is one of those songs that when I listen to it, I almost feel like I'm being thrown back to Cruelty and the Beast era because I feel like that song could fit on that album. So yeah, overall, I did enjoy the album, but there was I'm gonna list a gripe here, and it's nothing specific. It's just the vibe, the feeling I get from listening to it. I'm a Cradle fan. I've been a Cradle fan for a long time. There's a certain, and people are gonna get mad at me for this. They always do. This album, for me, lacked a degree of this. I guess I don't know what to call it, like an epic. This epicness that Cradle songs tend to have, the ones that I really like anyway. And I dare say this, but a little bit of creativity. And Cradle's one of the most creative bands out there, so you kind of put them on a higher pedestal, which is a little bit unfair. But I'm thinking back to songs like, I don't know, off the top of my head, Serpent's Tongue, Lord Abortion, Amore Morte, like just, I don't know, Promise of Fever, Mannequin, like these songs are really, I love Cradle of Filth, right? This album didn't have songs that made me love like those songs, like I love those songs. It was just lacking a bit there. Not sure why. Still liked it through and through. Definitely some high points, but I don't know. I didn't feel like I fell in love with it.
You know, one small thing I wanted to mention that I forgot in How Many Tears to Nurture a Rose. In the verses, there's like a mini guitar solo going on in the background. I don't know if you noticed that, but every time that happens, I just love it. And I think that perhaps is a good example of the creativity there. It's like a mini little guitar solo, but you know.
I did notice, and I gotta be careful with my words because it's not a lack of creativity in that sense, because there definitely is stuff going on. They're putting cool things in there, like at the beginning of which is the song that has the woman talking at the beginning?
I think that might be, oh man.
Is that Black Smoke Curling?
I think it might be the Dying of the Embers.
Whichever one that one is. And it sucks that we don't know because we listened to this all week long. It's not like we're looking at the song titles every time. But anyways, in that song, she has her little speech, her little monologue, and she says something about we're getting our armies ready for war. And then Danny screams, "For war!" And it's just so fucking sick. It's one of the best parts on the album. Just the way he screams "for war." And that's an example of something that I love Cradle of Filth going, okay, we're gonna do this there. That's awesome. But what I'm talking about is, I guess, things that are, maybe I don't know what I'm trying to say. Maybe things that are more memorable, like, I don't know. I'm having trouble here. I really am. It's missing something. Because I can think about these older Cradle songs, Lust More Than Wargasm, Beneath the Howling Stars, these songs that are just timeless to me, and I could put them on. Principle of Evil Made Flesh. These songs just rip so fucking hard, and there's stuff about them that I go, oh yeah, that's the part that really gets me. This album lacks stuff like that. It has a few, but it doesn't have quite enough for my personal liking.
Well, with that being said, I guess we'll rate this album now. And for me, I think it's a very well-rounded album, and it's the kind of album that I really enjoyed thoroughly every single time I listened to it. A good chunk of the songs made my playlist, and it gets my toe tag.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think it's up there. I can't give it a toe tag. I'm gonna be that guy again, unfortunately. I do enjoy it. There's no bad songs on it, but for Cradle, it feels like it's almost on an average plane, and bands like this, you gotta hold to a higher standard sometimes. I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm not gonna tease with a 7.5. I'm gonna give it a 7 because I really feel like it just lacked a bit of epicness, a bit of oomph. And I'll get flack for that, I know I will, but I gotta be honest with myself, and that's it, 7 for me.
And there you have it, a 7 from Vile Self and a toe tag from myself, and that's all we got for you guys today. Remember to like this video if you liked it. Tell us in the comments below, what do you think of this album a week after its release? I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
We'll see you guys later.